All right, good morning, everyone. It is just a little bit after 10 o'clock today, and I want to make sure Matt Lamont is on. So Matt Lamont is on. People are still coming in. We had a lot of participants sign up for today, so glad to see that. December 1st, can you believe it? I certainly cannot. We started this back in March. Ralph Maratti's on the call. He's the director of Title Toolbox. Cannot believe it's December 1st. So again, thank you all, because this will be the last one. Well, no, we have one more. Excuse me. Let me correct myself. I think we have at least one more or two more in December here of staff picks. And last time was my staff pick. And what I liked was two things: was the liens in our system. We're one of the few data companies that have liens in our system. And they're 75 cents a piece. Those are huge numbers, by the way, for lenders and for agents, because someone with a lien, they're not going to continue to struggle with, say, an IRS 1040 tax lien. If you take a look at the liens in our system in Title Toolbox, they're right here on the Premier Data, liens, 75 cents a piece, excluding phone numbers and emails. But if you download liens that you purchase, way over on the further right, you're able to see the amount of the liens. Some of those IRS tax liens are in the tens of thousands of dollars. So a property owner that has a lien, and really I haven't seen anything under, say, 8,000 or 9,000. This is the lowest tax lien. You know, to live with that kind of stress, especially now with everything else going on, those are really hot doors to market to for agents and lenders. So again, for the title reps on the call, if you haven't signed lenders up, please do. Because the lien tax defaults as well, which are free under assessments and taxes, are really an awesome door to prospect to. So that was my pick for staff pick in case you missed it. The other thing is I just wanted to bring your quick attention to is we have a wallet here. And I'm on our test site, so the wallet will still show our old promo. So we had a promo that ended. Actually, it ended on the 1st. So it's gone by. Today's the 1st, but it ended yesterday. So the promo was a really great promo where we gave you basically 50% back on what you've put in for money. So if you put $20 in, you got $30 worth of credit. If you put $50 in, we added $25 set. Great promo. We hope you took advantage of it. And if we're going to have another promo, if we will, we'll send out some emails on that. The wallet is my other staff pick, if you will. I had liens, but the wallet works incredibly well. Now, when you check out, you do not have to go back in and add that credit card number each time. It works incredibly well. So those are my staff picks, okay? Also, I want to continue to keep this invitation in front of everyone, that you're welcome. Your clients are welcome to come on and share the spotlight on how we're doing business, how we're surviving right now with COVID. I'm sure we all follow the news. One of the areas that I've been pushing was out-of-state owners. And if you follow the news over Thanksgiving, there was a lot more people traveling than expected, which, you know, good for them if they did. But unfortunately, it's probably going to really shut down a lot of the traveling or add some real restrictions here coming up, because we all know how that is. And they're predicting a surge on a surge for COVID. So again, out-of-state owners is a terrific area to market to, because I don't think people are going to be flying much coming up. So if someone wants to come on and talk about how they're marketing to out-of-state owners, say, love to have them on here, okay? So without further ado, today's staff pick, Matt Lamont's going to come on and talk a little bit about turnover rate. That's his favorite, and that is under statistics in our system. And just a couple of words about Matt. Matt handles a lot of the Old Republic websites. Our client, Old Republic's been a terrific client. They've really come on in a big way. And Matt's handled that account. And he's actually, his title is Business Development Manager. So you can always feel free to reach out to Matt as well. So Matt, if you're on, and you're probably on mute right now, just unmute yourself. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make you co-host here so you can share your screen, okay? So it looks like you're co-host now, Matt. Matt, are you on? Someone unmute themselves. Let me know if people can hear me. Okay, great. Matt's on. Great. I was wondering what's going on here, Matt. All right. Awesome,
I got two mutes. So there's a mute on my headset, and there's another mute on this.
Well,
I'm in love with the mute button.
Yeah, sometimes two mutes is a good thing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, save my butt.
So again, Matt Lamont's kind of one of my work buddies, if you will. When we did go into the office in Costa Mesa, we would always chit-chat, have coffee, whatnot. I'm still hoping for those days again where we can go in the office. We're right on Baker Street. We have a lovely office there. Yeah, those are the good days, I guess, right? But who knows what the future is. But still hoping to have an office. And nothing wrong with this as well, right?
I haven't seen the office since March.
Yeah, I know. None of us have. Ralph has gone in a little bit. He lives fairly close by. And our office is still open. So, by the way, this, again, this is kind of an open forum. No real format, as you can tell. The office is still open on Baker Street, and we still have customer support in the office. Michael Paul's doing a heck of a job there. And our other program is Revo Gateway. We've recently released version 2. And again, going back to when I started, Matt started a little bit after me, but we're pretty close together on starting. I started out with Revo Gateway. And then Title Toolbox came along. Ralph Moratti hopped on the team right after us, I guess. We were all pretty close together, and became director of Title Toolbox. I had the opportunity to come on to Title Toolbox.
Hey,
so
Jim,
in the meantime, go ahead.
I'm going to steal your screen.
Yeah, go ahead, please. In the meantime, thank you. I think you're good to go, Matt. In the meantime, Ralph came on and we took Title Toolbox out of mothballs, and he's done a heck of a job along with Matt, Brian Fox, Chad Brown. I know some of these guys don't like their name brought up, but that's tough. It's going to be mentioned. Laurie, she's done a heck of a job. The whole team, revamping Title Toolbox and making it is what it is today. So I kind of get off Revo Gateways where I'm going, but then the other half of our team, Heather, Jen, and our development team have released Revo Gateway version 2. And I got to say that's an incredibly impressive interface on that. So the plan is, and I already mentioned this to Ralph, kind of a surprise to our developer, Lynn. He hasn't even mentioned about it, but I'm gonna stick his neck out for him. I'd like to see Lynn come on next year on one of these Title Toolbox Tuesdays to give everyone an idea on just how complex our systems are. I mean, it's one thing to build a website, have the hosting, the server, add users, the admin portion of it. But the other big part of this is, we're 100% responsible for the content and the website. We do this all in-house. We're global, of course, but it's our product, And when you see how much coding goes into this, but then you have to add in the data component. It's not just enough to build a website. Keep in mind, the engine here is our data source that powers this website. And that's incredibly complex. So when we make changes like the wallet, say, or we add counties on, it's a huge, huge undertaking. So I want Lynn to come on next year, first of the year here, which would be right up the way time's going, and really give us a look into his world. I think that would be incredibly informative. All right. So without any further ado, Matt Lamont is on right now, and he's going to talk about turnover rates. So go ahead, Matt.
Jim, that was one hell of a drum roll.
Yeah, it was kind of long, actually.
That was a big drum roll, bro. I was waiting for the marching band to come by and then the credits. So I'm going to start at the premise of this. I know everybody hates farming, right? And the reason why most people hate farming is because they don't usually get results from farming. And the reason why they're not getting results from farming is because they're not using data. So that's the premise, right? So I'm going to prove this to you, and I'm going to give you an example. And I challenge you at the end of this. Are you recording this, by the way?
Yes,
Jim?
I am. Yes. Yep.
All right, cool.
Yep.
So Jim's got a recording. You can take it, rewind it back, so you can do this yourself. But let me show you some of the reasons why. So common wisdom is that if you get a listing or an open house, or maybe even if your colleague gets a listing or open house, you are going to farm around the first 200 nearby neighbors around that listing or around that open house, right? Is that a good idea or is it not a good idea? Well, we're going to answer that question. So the answer to that question is sometimes. Sometimes not. As a matter of fact, a lot of times not. So I'm going to give you an example of why that is. So here's an address I'm just putting in, and what we're going to do is do the normal thing like we usually do. We're going to pull the first 200 nearby neighbors, right? Because we're going to get ready to send out a mailer telling everybody about the open house, or telling everybody that we sold this property, whatever it is that our marketing message is going to be. All right, so here we have the 200 nearby neighbors. Oh, I will admit them. Here are the 200 nearby neighbors, right? So normally at this point in the process, this is it for you. So you're going to get the 200 nearby neighbors, you're going to send out the mailers, and then continue on the rest of your day, right? Here's what I challenge you to do. Look at the numbers.
Should be.
Because you're going to be able to predict whether this list is going to do well or not. I don't know the numbers on this list. Well, now I do. And this is actually a really good example. All right, so out of 200 homes that we just selected, we can look back at the past 5 years. That's what this graph is in the bottom right. And we can see that this neighborhood is relatively stable. And what's it stable at? It is stable at 2 sales a year, right? So out of these 200 homes, 2 of these will sell this year, next year, and probably the year after. Why? Because the last 5 years has been the same thing, right? This is the beauty of data, and why they use it in marketing, and why big data is such a big thing, is because by looking in the past, we could predict what the behavior is about other human beings in the future, right? So looking in the past on this, I know if I market to this list consistently, that I'm going to be competing, not getting, but competing for 2 sales, right? So you've probably heard in the past the turnover rate's important, and it is, from your real estate coach. And this is why. Because if the turnover rate is 1%, like it is right here, we are not going to get very many results, right? Because the 2 sales could be anything. right? The 2 sales a year could be somebody's uncle's brother's sister's real estate agent. You're not getting these, you're competing for them, right? So likely you won't get any results from this. So rather than send it out to the 200 nearby neighbors, what I'm going to do is check the nearby neighbors. So what I mean by that is I'm going to look in the same zip code, but I'm going to look for a cluster of homes where there's been a lot of sales, right? So let's go ahead and clear start over. And I'm going to notate the zip code is 92840. That's the only thing I need to remember from this list. And I'm not going to market to this list at all. I'm going to stay way away from it because it's going to be a waste of money. 92840. And what I'm doing now is I'm going into statistics. And the way I remember that is I was just looking at a graph. Now I'm clicking on a graph, right? I'm doing an area search. Same county, orange. The zip code was 92840. And now I can cluster their homes in different ways. I'm going to go with the carrier route since I'm doing mail. But you could do property tract or census tract, tax rate area. I'm going with carrier route. And where it says number of units, I know that sounds like, is it a multi-unit home? No. Number of units means how many homes are going to be in this cluster. I want a minimum of 150 homes in a sample before I pull my list, right? So let me go ahead and search. So there we have it. So this is a great example actually right here at the very top. Wow, this couldn't have gone better actually. Just to give you a major example of why this is important. So remember, we were looking at 200 homes and there had been 2 sales. Well, now I'm looking at a cluster of homes, same size, relatively 16 homes larger, 216 homes, 28 sales. Think about that. So 200 homes, 2 sales versus 216 homes and 28 sales in the last 12 months. Which list do you think is going to perform better? Like which realtor do you think is going to have a better outreach campaign? Obviously the one with a close to 13% turnover rate, right? Because they're selling in a hot market. There's a big pool to swim in. There's a lot of fish, right? So I'm going to go with this one at the top. Now, what kind of campaign am I doing? Well, I was talking about doing direct mail, but maybe I want to follow that up with phone calls because that would be a smart idea, right? Want to get in front of the customer, not just send the mail. So kind of double up on my marketing. So if I want to do that, what I did is I clicked on Premier Data. This opened up 3 tabs. One's mortgage info, leads, and phones and emails. I want phones, right? So what I'm going to do now is click on purchase phones and then pull phone numbers for this list. I'm going to go ahead and pull that off just so I can pull the list itself. Well, let's say you don't want to pull phones. Cool. Then you don't need to click on that. You're just going to click get count and then view records. Now I have my list. A way better list, right? So I'm going to beat on that horse one more time. When you pull a list from the system, this is the button to check, dynamic stats. I think that this is super, super, super important. If you're using this system, this should be one of the first things that you do. If you upload a list, check the dynamic stats. If you pull the nearby neighbors, check the dynamic stats. The only time you don't want to check this button is if you're doing a very targeted search like divorce or death or liens, what Jim was talking about earlier. You can't really check the turnover rate because the liens are going to be all over the place, right? In several different neighborhoods, right? So the dynamic stats don't really apply when you're not searching a specific cluster of homes. What is this good for? Picking territory. Picking territory is super important. So you could be all over the city and running around everywhere, but you still need a spot to call home, right? Where is your home going to be? Probably where you just got a house listed or where you just had one sold will be a good spot to pick a territory, I'd say. This territory, by the way, when you get this list, say you got a 13% turnover rate list, consistently market to it. Don't just market to it once and then you don't get any leads and then you're like, all right, I'm going to another list. There's a marketing funnel, right? And this is in every business. So any business that applies marketing, it's the same thing across the board. Real estate is no different. I know there's some real estate agents that think that this, real estate is, different from every other business and the marketing's different. It's not. It's not. You use data just like, a tire shop would, or even a gym. They buy data for marketing, right? Everything is the same. So there is a marketing funnel. It's going to probably take 3 to 4 months before you start getting stuff trickling in. And you need to consistently keep repeating your message, whatever that is, through various means throughout the time that you want to hold this territory. When you don't want this territory anymore, stop marketing to it. But if you take this list and you market to it and you throw it away because you didn't get leads, and then you move to another list and then you throw that away, what you're doing is you're resetting your marketing funnel, right? And this is just as important as the data. If you reset your marketing funnel, that 3 to 4 months, you just hit the reset switch. Now it's another 3 to 4 months before you get a lead. So for us, and this isn't self-serving, for us, if you keep pulling data, we keep making more money. So if you want to pull data all day, cool. You can fill up the pockets of Benutech. But if you want to be successful as a real estate agent and get something for your farming, you need to be consistent on your outreach campaign, on the same list, and just keep hammering it. If you want to expand, that's a different story. If you want to expand, get another list, start marketing to that, start pumping more money into your marketing campaign. That's great, especially if you want to use the specialty data like death and divorce and liens and all that stuff. That's really good for expansion, right? If you want to expand to a new territory, that's what you do. So taking it on the flip side, if I got a listing from a lien or a death, what am I going to do next? I'm going to pull the nearby neighbors, check the dynamic stats, and see if that neighborhood's a good spot to market to. And if it's not, then I'm going to find a neighboring place, right? So I'm repeating the same thing. That's kind of the marketing strategy that you need to employ with outreach. And I think, from getting success from your farming efforts, you're going to have a whole different outlook on farming, as in, I'm getting so much success from it. I love farming, right? It's going to be a totally different story. So that's really all I wanted to share, Jim.
Good. No, I appreciate it. And one of the things Matt has done, and we can open it up to questions for Matt in a second, he's worked a lot with direct mail. So I don't know if you want to touch on that just a minute. He's brought on some direct mail companies. That's really been his specialty a while back.
Yes, I mean, I don't want to drag it out too much with that. I mean, the mail, you could send out any kind of mail with call to actions on it, right? The most important thing about mail is, and I'm going to beat the dead horse, just be consistent. Once a month, every single month, send out the mail and follow it up with something. So they need to hear your voice to trust you. So that's another thing. Some people send out mail and then they never, knock on a door. Of course, you can't knock on doors right now, but they never knock on doors when there wasn't COVID, or make phone calls. Well, you got to follow up your mail piece, right? So I always look at mail as kind of like the air cover. You're dropping bombs and whatnot. I don't know why I'm using military stuff, but and then you send the ground troops in, right? You can't occupy territory by just bombing it, right? So you drop your mail, but you got to follow it up with a phone call or a knock on the door, and you can even mention that you sent them something. Hey, I was just following up on the CMA that I sent you, or hey, I'm just following up on this mailer I sent you about whatever, right? You use that as an in. We do the same thing. We market too. We market our business, and we have always two ways of marketing it, right? So we send emails out, and then we make phone calls. That's how we expand our business. So you can do the same thing. Believe me, it's a tried and true strategy.
Right on. Do you have to go back to your stats here for a second, Matt? Can you go back one screen?
What do you mean?
Go back to stat results.
Like dynamic stats, or are you talking about?
Yeah, no, to the right. Go to the right and go back to stat results. Go to the right. There we go. So if you know what I liked about this, and again, Matt did this on the fly, and he picked a really good property tract I think he was using. Turnover was over 12%. Couple of things. You can have some really crazy turnover. You can have 100% turnover because it could be a new tract. It could be a small tract. If there's, 2 properties in that tract, one sold in the last 12 months, you get a 50% turnover. Okay. So what I liked about Matt's was a few things. Turnover was really solid. There was enough units there, over 200, but the average year of ownership, 17 years. That's huge. You usually don't see that kind of turnover for that long of a period of time. So everyone in that tract, on average, has equity in their house. So a lot of people are not willing to list because they're afraid they don't have the equity. They're going to take a beating. So when you see something of 15 years around there, so that's a really good example Matt pulled up. All right, on that. And
so another thing to point out too, and that's a good point, Jim. If you're unsure on the turnover rate and it's unusually high, like you got like a 20% turnover rate or 100%, like Jim said, if it's unusually high, then I would look at the dynamic stats of that as well, of the list as well, and look for spikes in the 5-year graph. So if you see a big spike, for like 3 months, but the whole 5 years is leveled, you can probably guarantee the fact that there was a new housing development and a bunch of homes just got sold. So it's skewing the results, right? Your turnover rate's not exactly relevant or accurate.
Right. And the other quick thing Matt was hitting on there, or close to it, was as title reps, one of the things you're able to do is pull up these turnover farms and save them to your agent's account. So it makes you look good, but you're really helping them out. I mean, especially right now is a great time of year. This is very timely today because we're rolling into Q1 pretty quick here. So what can you do as a title rep to keep the momentum or start some momentum for next year where you can pull up these turnover farms? So
on the West Coast, I've been talking to a lot of title companies on the East Coast, which is totally different from the way that we do business, over here. And one of the things that I noticed is on the East Coast, all title insurance companies talk to you about is title insurance, right? That's what they talk to you about, the ins and outs of title insurance. The West Coast, you have a very symbiotic relationship with your title insurance rep. And it's really all about the value add, right? They're adding value for real estate agents. And the coolest part is they're teaching them stuff that usually is reserved for the broker or the real estate coach. But instead, it's the title rep. And I told people on the East Coast this, and they just can't believe it, right? It like blows their mind. They just can't believe that that's how we do business out here. So, I mean, real estate agents, take advantage of that relationship because you have like a privilege that, probably 3/4 of the country does not have. And title reps, sharpen your game, learn how to sell like a real estate agent. It's each one teach one. So you can teach real estate agents, how to farm correctly, how to take territory, and that's going to be the big difference maker for you in your paycheck.
Right on. Very good. Questions for Matt Lamont? Everyone, I think, is on mute right now, so you can unmute yourself if you have questions for Matt. No questions for Matt. I believe.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Quick question. You initially had a list that had a low percentage, and then you dipped in a little bit more and found the 12%.
Yes.
What was the difference between those two lists?
The amount of sales.
I mean, because I thought they were both in Garden Grove. Did you just find like another neighborhood or another portion of that Garden Grove city, or?
Oh, I see what you mean. What I did is I broke the whole zip code down that I had the listing on. So I had the listing of 12262 Falling Leaf Street, and I had the zip code of 92840. So I took 92840 zip code and broke it down into carrier routes.
I see.
So if you want to
Oh,
see
okay.
that, if you want to hit edit search, I'll show you. I don't know why this isn't doing anything.
Don't know if your internet's connected or not. Looks like. Oh, there we go.
So what I did, just to repeat it, I'll do this fast. Putting my listing address, I clicked on the drop down. I went to nearby neighbors, and I put 200. And I notated the zip code off of the list, right? After I saw that the stats didn't look good. I clicked on dynamic stats, noticed the stats were not what I wanted. So I looked at the zip code 92840, right? And then I cleared my search, went into statistics, and then put the same zip code right here. That's what I did.
Right. So in a real life scenario or application, what Matt really showed you was, hey, here's a listing by one of your agents. I want to, as a title rep, I'm curious what the turnover rate is. It wasn't great. So then Matt just took that zip code and then broke it down. And again, that's what I mentioned, is you're able to find a better turnover farm for that agent. So, I think he was at like 1% there or something like that. It was crazy low. And he went from 1% to 12% in the same zip code.
So
it's
you'd be
not like you have
surprised
to go-
too. Like I have seen more bad lists than I have seen good lists from real estate agents. When I ask them, how are you farming right now to get listings? Let me see your list. And I look at the stats of the list. I'm gonna have to say, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say like 9 out of 10, maybe even higher than that. Lists that I've looked at have been bad lists. So think about that. Like a lot of times people will call the customer service of a title company and say, hey, I want the 200 nearby neighbors. And they don't do the check on that, right? They don't check on it. They just give them the list. So it's
Right.
super important, like, because the amount of money, you think about the amount of money that you throw out the window, 75 cents per mailer, right? Maybe $1 per mailer, depends on how you spruce it up. The data is almost more important than the mailer itself. You can send a handwritten note, to an area that's got 28, sales in 12 months and written in crayon, and it would probably do better than if you had a list of, 200 where only 2 have sold. Even your crayon mailer would probably do better.
Yeah. And
The
there is
super
such
important.
a thing as Jenny's letters. It's they look really authentic. That my mom's a real estate agent, and it looks like it's coming from a child. It's written on yellow paper with crayon. Actually,
I was actually
Matt, do
joking
that
about
a lot.
that. I didn't know.
Yeah, I know, but
I didn't know that
there
was actually a thing.
there's absolutely a marketing piece floating around. If you go out and Google Jenny
Really?
letters, you'll find it. Jenny letters, and it's quite interesting actually. I don't know if I have it quick here. So we're pretty much all done for today, unless someone has some other questions.
Hey, I wanted to ask a question if I could.
Sure.
So you pulled those by carrier route.
Yeah.
So So they could do an EDDM mailing to those carrier routes.
Yes, you could.
So there'd be a lot less on the postage, and now they know, hey, this, because doing EDDM is kind of just a crapshoot a lot of times. But if you know you've got good statistics in a particular carrier route.
So you have the carrier route numbers too.
Right.
FYI.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Right.
Yep.
It's such a simple. It seems so simple, right? Like it's such a simple way of enhancing a list. But it's so necessary. Like I would say that this is like the most vital thing before you do a marketing campaign is to make sure you're, targeting the right area. If you're not, it's going to suck for you and you're never going to want to farm again. You'll never farm again. I've seen real estate agents give up on farming and they say they're referral only, and it happens a lot. And if you look at the statistics of real estate agents that fail, it's over 80%. Over 80%. I don't know any job out there in the United States where you have a failure rate of 80% or more, right? Except for maybe criminals. But besides that, I've never seen that high of a failure rate. And the biggest thing is marketing. Marketing is the crux is the bane of a real estate agent's existence, and dialing in a good list is pretty much what is necessary.
Right on.
Real quick, Matt, what were you guys talking about, that EDM and the courier route numbers to make it cheaper on the mailing?
Sure. So EDDM is every door direct, and it's provided by the mail carrier to give you less expensive postage, because you're basically giving the mailman stuff he's going to do on his way, right? So there's no sorting needed. It's all going to the same mailman in the same area. So the postage is less expensive because labor costs less, right?
Yeah, the postage itself is about 19 cents a piece.
Yeah.
In that neighborhood.
Super cheap.
Yeah, and so you don't put names on the piece at all. It just says local postal customer, and the mail carrier just bing, bing, bing. They put it in with all their other mail. But again, that was kind of, I always thought it was kind of a hit and miss thing. But here, if you can see what a carrier route's doing, that's big.
Yeah, it's huge. And
so
this right here,
you get to do that cheaper mailing, and roughly what your statistics
with better results. And here, just to point out, this is the group number for each carrier route right here on the left.
So you would use that, and
yes,
you would use that group number when you. Okay, cool.
Yeah, but a couple things here. So, because we've had a lot of questions about Every Door Direct. Someone will pull up an Every Door Direct list off the USPS site, and there'll be a lot more doors there than what we have. And that's because, just as it indicates, it's every door, meaning the renters say. So in our system, if you were pulling up an area, you're not getting any renter information here. So if there's apartment buildings in someone's farm, that's probably going to add an extra 25 to 100 or whatever mail pieces on Every Door Direct, which is not going to be the case here. Okay, so just FYI, and we get that question a lot, how come they don't match up the numbers?
That's a good point.
That's usually the main reason. The other thing is a nice cheat here in the system where Matt is. So if someone says, hey, I know my Every Door Direct route, I can't find it in your system. Well, you could go in and do this type of filtering, and then you can find that Every Door Direct route by using right where Matt's cursor is. So it's kind of a little reverse cheat there if you needed to find it.
Awesome. Thank you,
All right.
guys.
Yeah, good questions. So I want to thank Matt. I really appreciate it. Good to see you. And
good to see you, my
everyone
friend.
else, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So a couple quick things is this is recorded. If you need a link to it, send me an email. We'll get it over to you. We're going to do another one in 2 weeks. It's going to be, I believe, Mr. Brian Fox on with his staff. Okay? So appreciate it.
thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
Matt. Take care,
See you
everyone.
guys. Have a good one.
Take care. My pleasure. Take care, everyone.